You're all very welcome. Thanks very much for coming out this afternoon. So look, just to welcome you all here today to this workshop on the PEACEPLUS programme and investment area 5.5 around geothermal energy. So just to introduce myself initially, my name is Declan McGarrigle and I am the Interim Director of the PEACEPLUS programme at the Special EU Programmes Body. Some housekeeping, there's not due to be a fire alarm, so if there is any alarms, please make your way to the exits using the stairs and exit to the front of the building. So today, just to give you a little bit of a sense of what today's session's about in this workshop. So we're going to give you a little bit of an overview of the context and the background in terms of how the PEACEPLUS programme has come about and how we developed that over the last number of years. So this includes some of the policy context and some of the engagement that we had, including kind of research as well. Eimear Bush, my colleague who's here today, is going to be working on this investment area in terms of providing advice and guidance to anybody that's developing a project over the next number of months ahead of the call and the programme opening. So Eimear's going to take you through the investment area itself and some of the detail on some of the actions and some of the focus of the geothermal energy demonstration investment area. There will also be some input then as well from our two accountable departments. They are here today, Monica Lee and Sharon Clements, from the respective accountable departments from the two governments, North and South, and they'll provide you with some oversight and some information in terms of the policy and strategies that you will need to be reviewing and looking at and making sure that your project aligns with. So they will shortly provide that overview. So just in terms of the programme itself and some background, just briefly, to how we've arrived at the point where we're out in front of you today and engaging with you in relation to project development. So we've reached this point really through a detailed process of collaboration with the respective governments in the Northern Ireland Executive, the Government of Ireland, the UK Government, and also obviously the European Commission as well. And it was important that we were able to show the policy alignment between anything that we were designing and proposing within the programme. And I'll say a little bit more about the different themes and investment areas shortly. So we've developed a new programme, which is one single PEACEPLUS programme. Anybody that's been involved with SEUPB on our current programmes will know that there's two separate programmes, the PEACE4 programme and the Interim 5A programme. But moving forward into the new programme period, there's one single PEACEPLUS programme. So it's all about really contributing to a more peaceful, prosperous and stable society within Northern Ireland and the border region of Ireland, or the border counties of Ireland. And we believe that through the projects that you will initiate and be involved in, that there will be a legacy that's left from the PEACEPLUS initiatives. It is important to note that PEACEPLUS funding is distinct. It will fund activities that do promote peace and reconciliation and also contribute to a more prosperous economic and territorial position for the programme area. So it's really important that your project aligns with that. And you'll hear us talking about peace and prosperity. So no matter what project it is across any of the themes and investment areas, including this specific investment area on geothermal energy, you still need to be thinking about the peace outcomes and impacts and part of that peace and prosperity journey that we're all on. So look, there was a period of intensive review, research, public engagement, really dating back to 2018. It's gone back 4 years now, when we first started really having some of the initial discussions around what the new PEACEPLUS programme would look like. We had a really intensive stakeholder engagement process in 2019 and the early part of 2020. We had 16 events throughout the programme area and beyond. And we engaged with a wide range of sectoral interests, stakeholders, and indeed citizens in order to get their views. And I think we had about well over 400 consultation responses that came through. So it was a really intensive period of engagement to make sure that we got the programme right. We also had a public consultation, a statutory consultation in 2021 on the proposed programme. And subsequent to that, the programme was approved by the two governments, North and South. And I'm pleased to say as well, this year in July, the European Commission approved and adopted the programme, which is one of the final steps before we can launch calls and launch the programme. There are some further steps that we do need to take, whilst the Commission approval and adoption was absolutely critical. There's a financing agreement that the UK Government and the European Commission are working on at the moment. And once that's approved and through Westminster Parliament, then we'll be ready to launch the first calls and indeed launch the programme itself. So we'll keep you updated on that. I should also say as well, and obviously I've referenced the two departments being here today and their important role that they play as accountable departments and providing match funding to the programme. About 80% of the funding comes from the European Regional Development Fund. The other 20% comes from the two governments, North and South, and indeed the UK Government as well. So that process, they have been critical stakeholders for us, and that will continue as we develop the call documentation in the coming weeks and months as well. So the programme itself, there is we're maintaining the same programme area that was there on the current programmes for peace of Northern Ireland and the border counties of Ireland. There's a significant financial investment that is coming through the programme to projects over the next number of years. Over €1 billion. That's more than double what the combined total of our current peace and Interreg programmes. So it's a huge, significant, and I think very welcomed investment by all of those stakeholders that I mentioned. It does have 6 thematic areas right across the programme, so there's quite a broad range of areas and activities, and I know you're here today to hear about 5.5, the investment area 5.5 and geothermal energy. But please do take the opportunity to look at the other investment areas as well. For organisations, for yourselves, there will be interest in other areas, potentially in particular around research and innovation for this group under theme 2. But there are other areas as well. That's just to name one. And please do take the opportunity to look at that. We have a programme overview document on our website which sets out some further detail on the themes and each of the 22 investment areas, and I'll show you a slide in a moment which shows all of those investment areas. It is important to note as well, and indeed there may be people in the room that are from outside the programme area today, that we are encouraging involvement this time round from partners that are outside the programme area as well, where they can add value, provide expertise to partnerships from within the programme area. So, for example, if there's partners further south in Ireland or in Scotland or anywhere else in the UK that you feel could add benefit and provide a level of expertise to the partnership and to the activities that you're carrying out, which ultimately will have added value and a benefit and an impact to Northern Ireland and the border counties of Ireland, then that's something that we would encourage and continue to talk to us about that, and Eimear, as you develop your respective projects. So this is just a schematic of the various themes that I touched on and just where investment area 5.5 falls within that. So you can see the 6 themes that we have, ranging from theme 1, which is building peaceful and thriving communities, and we had a workshop here this morning on investment area 1.3. We've had workshops on investment area 1.4 and 1.1. So all of this is really starting to mobilise now and starting to be implemented. Theme 2 then, and again we'll have workshops and a lot of support provided around Theme 2 in the months ahead. Touched earlier things that might be of interest around the Innovation Challenge Fund, which is investment area 2.2. There's a research and innovation component, SMEs working with industry and academics and government around new products and services. And indeed, renewable energy, for example, is included as one of the target areas in that. Theme 3 then, big focus on our young people and maintaining that focus from the current Peace 4 programme in particular, around their skills, around shared education and learning together, and also around mental health as well, which obviously is a major and critical challenge that we're all trying to address at the moment. Theme 4 then, healthy and inclusive communities. There's health and social care projects, rural regeneration, rural development, and also a focus on victims and survivors. Theme 5, which is where the geothermal investment area falls, has a total of 6 investment areas, all about supporting a sustainable future. So you can see, focus on biodiversity, a focus on coastal management, water quality, water infrastructure, and also around sustainable transport, around cross-border rail. So a huge range of areas. All of these areas will have separate calls for applications, will have separate strands of support, similar to what we're doing today. So again, please do take a look into that and come back to us if there's things of interest. Theme 6 then is the final theme, and that's about building and embedding partnership and collaboration. There's an investment area, 6.1, which is around strategic planning. So are there challenges that need to be addressed, challenges that are there because of the existence of a border, obstacles that are there to cross-border collaboration, and is there more strategic planning between different levels of government or different organisations that could address some of those obstacles that exist? And that can be across a range of sectors, including around energy, renewables, and all of that, those areas of interest. There's also a flagship element this time around for the PEACEPLUS programme around small-scale projects and small grants. And just to note that there's 2 areas of the programme under Theme 1 and Theme 6, which will be providing funding for projects below €100,000. And that's a process that's being managed by our colleagues in an organisation called POBL. And they'll be working in partnership with an organisation from Northern Ireland in the next year. And they'll be opening calls for those low-level, small-scale initiatives. But again, they cover a range of areas and projects around cross-border and also cross-community collaboration. So Theme 5, in terms of, Eimear's going to give you a lot of the detail around investment area 5.5 shortly. But it's just really to show, again, where the investment area sits within that Theme 5 around supporting a sustainable and better connected future. There's a total of €303 million that's available under that Theme 5. And there's an allocation then to each investment area, including investment area 5.5. So all of this is interlinked, and that's why we've grouped it together under Theme 5. But it is separate calls for applications, and Eimear will go into that in a little bit more detail shortly. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to our colleagues in the 2 accountable departments, and they'll provide you with a little bit of a policy overview and touch on some of the key strategies and policies that you really need to take account of as you develop your projects over the next number of months. So just like to welcome Sharon Clements, who'll give a short overview from the Department for Economy, and Sharon's from Energy Division within the department. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. As he said, I'm Sharon Clements. I look after heat policy within the Department for the Economy, and I am embedded in Energy Group, which has a lot of other energy-related functions around gas and electricity, renewables, energy efficiency, hydrogen and transport. My role is mainly around decarbonising how we heat our homes, how we cool our buildings, and how we get hot water. In Northern Ireland, around 40% of emissions come from heating, cooling and hot water. And peculiar to Northern Ireland, around 70% of homes rely on oil for their heating, and only 30% are connected to the gas grid. In December last year, Energy Group and the Department for the Economy published its energy strategy and associated action plan, which covers 22 actions for the year 2022. I'm told it's a coincidence, but There are 22 actions being delivered this year. Heat policy is included within the strategy, and there's specific mention of low carbon heat support schemes, and for the first time officially recognises that geothermal energy has a role to play in decarbonising heating, cooling and hot water. The energy strategy is very much a collaborative approach to policy making. It sets out, it uses a wide-ranging evidence base and energy modelling to inform the policy development and the proposals to ensure that we will achieve our net zero targets by 2050. It deals with the challenges around the energy trilemma, which is climate change, our dependency on imported fossil fuels, and the energy crisis, and sets a pathway to a just transition, which means everyone in the future will be able to afford their energy and will be reliant on low carbon forms of energy. It sits within a much wider context of Northern Ireland executive strategies and legislation. The Department for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs has published its Green Growth Strategy, which is intending to reduce emissions, improve biodiversity and grow green skills and the green growth sector. Climate Change Act received royal assent over the summer. It sets challenging emissions targets, 100% reduction in greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide by 2050. It also puts a requirement on the departments to come up with interim proposals for interim targets for 2030 and 2040, and a very challenging target of at least 80% of electricity to come from renewable sources by 2030. Alongside that, the Department for Finance deals with building regulations and is bringing forward proposals for improvements in energy efficiency in new builds and for retrofit. And as I said, the steep global fossil fuel price rises, it has to be reflected locally in the tariff increases. Okay. An overview of the energy strategy. Its vision is net zero and affordable energy. It has 5 underpinning principles. Grow the green economy, which is about promoting skills and innovation. Do more with less. Very focused on energy efficiency, again, retrofit and new builds. The bit that falls mostly under my remit is the replacing fossil fuels with renewable energy. This is the phasing out of fossil fuels and demonstrations of low carbon technology. There's a section on smart systems and energy storage, and with a view to creating a flexible, resilient and integrated energy system. And there's the placing people at the heart of the energy future. We talk about a one-stop shop so that people are able to access all their energy-related information in one place. But it's about bringing people along and engaging people in this transition. Oh, did I not? Did you get that one? Sorry. Can't multitask, can only do one thing at a time. Okay, there we go. I see you've caught me up. You'll get a copy of these slides so that when I'm flicking through them like a crazy person, you don't have to try and write it down. Okay. The action plan was published in January this year. It has 22 targets, as I said. 2 targets specifically relate to decarbonisation of heat, which is Action 15, which is about low carbon heat demonstration projects, and Action 16, which is to develop and commence the delivery of a geothermal demonstrator project. Action 15 is very much a collaborative approach. We're working with other departments and with the health trusts and academia and the housing executive and housing associations to bring forward projects with a view to decarbonising the way we heat homes and communities and business and heat networks. We have identified 15 projects that we're collaborating across all those organisations with. Many of the projects are only starting this year, so we will continue to monitor them and gather information to inform policy development going forward. Number 16, action 16, is to commence a geothermal project, very much intended to be a show and tell project to inform, educate and demystify geothermal technology. It has two aspects in addition to the comms piece, which is a shallow geothermal project on the Stormont estate, which will be highly visible and open to the public with a view to helping people understand and connect with geothermal technology. And the second one is a longer term project, which is a deep geothermal project to try and access hot water around 70 degrees, around 2 kilometres, and with a view to demonstrating that this could help decarbonise the agri-food sector. This is my favourite busy slide. So it shows all the work that has gone into raising the profile of geothermal in Northern Ireland, very much led by GSNI and Queen's University, who started a monthly webinar series, which features guest geothermal experts and policymakers from across the world. And it has unlocked further actions within the department. So as part of the delivery of the energy strategy, GSNI was asked to start and chair a geothermal advisory committee, which now helps steer geothermal policy in Northern Ireland. In November 21, GSNI published a report which included a geothermal heat map, which has helped us to understand the potential for geothermal and be able to decide on policy interventions. In December 21, we published the energy strategy. First time we recognise that the role of geothermal, the action plan, and in June this year we had our geothermal conference, which brought together academics and industry experts and policymakers, and helped us to develop a vision for geothermal in Northern Ireland. Excuse me. Okay. This is GSNI's heat map. It shows that there's potential for shallow geothermal across the whole of Northern Ireland, and there is potential for deep geothermal in the aquifers under County Interim. This is another very busy slide, but this summarises the recommendations that accompanied the heat map. It shows the interlinkages between ownership and licensing, the planning system, how we have to make sure that the policy is implemented proportionately and sensibly, and how it will have to merge with existing environmental regulation. This is the outworkings of a report that Queen's did for us on building the geothermal sector, because we recognise that there is a very limited geothermal sector, very limited knowledge of geothermal in Northern Ireland, and we want to get ahead of that. So this is the summary of the report. So there's two sides to it: building the confidence in the geothermal sector and showcasing the actual technology. And in terms of building the sector, it's exploration, research, oversight and evaluation, and development of a geothermal energy roadmap, which is the work in progress. The other side is making it accessible to people, helping them understand it. And this slide shows the outworkings of the geothermal conference, where we asked policymakers and experts to give their views on geothermal energy and help us to come up with a vision for geothermal energy. And we came up with the vision wheel. Thanks very much to Queen's University for all their help in doing this. And it's divided into sections: communities to deliver geothermal energy to all communities. In terms of people, it's to build talent and capacity. For customers, it's to grow geothermal in a sustainable way, protecting the environment, and to put in place the operational policy support that will help the sector grow, and in investment, nurture, shield and protect the sector with investment funding. This is the last slide you'll be delighted to know. These are our future heat priorities. We are committed to a heat decarbonisation call for evidence in 2023. We're working on potentially a support scheme for low carbon heat, and we are about to start the procurement process for the geothermal demonstration project. In terms of policy, we're going to take the vision wheel and we're going to develop a roadmap for geothermal, building on all the research and expertise and all the information we've received. And that's it. You can get the energy strategy at that webpage, and I think we're going to share all these. And that's me.
Thanks very much, Sharon, for that very comprehensive overview. As Sharon said, look, all these slides and indeed the recording of today's event as well will be made available on our website in the coming days. So don't worry about having to take all of the notes down, because there's quite a lot of information I know that's being thrown at you today. So I'd just like to invite Monica Lee from DEC, who will provide the Irish Government's overview in terms of the various strategies and policies from that side of things. Monica, thank you very much.
Oops, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here this afternoon. I'm going to give an overview of policy interests from the Republic of Ireland side. It's going to be fairly high level and somewhat related to maybe geothermal. So I suppose just to set the scene, the 2020 targets that we had for climate action, just have to put my glasses on. Yes, overall in the term of renewable energy sources, we didn't meet our targets. And you can see there that in transport we did, although the target was relatively low. Electricity was pretty good, we were nearly there. And renewable heat was, really about half. So it was really the unfortunate side that brought us down. And that's really important when we consider that heat represents, approximately 40% of all energy used. So it's a critical area and we're not addressing it. If we look at a European context, you can see this chart here, and it basically shows the renewable energy used for heating and cooling. And we're looking at this particularly for geothermal, because geothermal is a very accessible heat when we're considering heating and cooling, especially when you're considering in urban areas and so on, and what geothermal can, what the opportunities that geothermal presents in terms of land take, and how we might access that type of renewable. So you can see on the left-hand side we have Sweden that has, 2/3 of its energy is provided by renewables, and the majority of that would be from geothermal energy. And then down, unfortunately, right down the right-hand side is Ireland with 6.3% of heating and cooling provided by renewables. And again, there will be a mixture of different renewables in there. So from this, we can see that really geothermal and renewables within heat and cooling hasn't really been discussed. And in terms of geothermal, it's really not an area that's in the discussion mix at all. Really we're talking about, in terms of renewables, we focused on wind in the main and also then solar. So that's where the discussion has been in terms of renewables in Ireland. So just coming down to the kind of the policy areas that perhaps geothermal can make an impact, and where we have been dealing with geothermal in terms of in raising awareness and trying to realise its utility. There are two main areas. First of all, there's the heat and built environment area. And you can see here that there are a number of different kind of policy areas that we've been talking about. As with in Northern Ireland, we've been talking about retrofitting, and that's been leading the way, and there's been quite a lot of investment in that area. And then also the other big areas, of course, rolling out zero carbon heating solutions. The two main areas within this would be district heating and networks in cities, which in Dublin, we've already developed district heating kind of infrastructure, and that can take various different energy sources. And then also zero emission heating in commercial and municipal buildings, so in terms of one-off buildings or small groups of buildings. And then there are other different areas that are being looked into, such as the renewable heat obligation policies, planning for the removal of fossil fuels by 2050, and also promotion of behavioural change, which is also really important. So if you come down to the targets for the heat and built environment in the Climate Action Plan, and we have 183 kind of actions within our Climate Action Plan, by 2030 we're talking about delivering up to 2.7 terawatt hours of district heating. We're going to have 50 to 55,000 commercial buildings with zero emissions heating, and also we're going to focus on reducing emissions within our public sector buildings, which should be up there on the list of our priorities. And then when you come down to the actions that were required to meet these targets, we have to talk about supporting the delivery of district heating projects, conducting appropriate research to inform and support the growth and development of this sector, developing a regulatory framework, because we don't have one currently, and also planning frameworks. We have to facilitate the information and the data and the emphasis to encourage planning around this area. There's also necessary systems of governance and to identify appropriate finance mechanisms. And these are all things, if you remember back to the chart, that countries such as Sweden have already in place, and this is what has helped to facilitate the implementation of geothermal energy as a viable source of heating and cooling. The second area in our policy areas is actually geothermal energy itself. So we have made some inroads to this, and similarly, as Sharon was saying, our Geological Survey, GSI, have been developing technical and non-technical guidance on these. So in November 2020, GSI developed the assessment of geothermal energy for district heating in Ireland, and that's available on the website. And then also in 2020, we had the non-technical roadmap for a policy and regulatory framework. So that was developed really to give us to see where we could take this. So that's already good that at least geothermal is starting to be talked about within the right areas within government. And in 2021, we're still going to continue with bringing geothermal into the renewables area. We're publishing a draft policy statement. We'll publish a draft policy statement at the end of 2021, and that was put out for public consultation. And it's proposed that we'll take that to government at the end of this year. And then, all being well, we'll start to work on legislation to put those policies in place. So in terms of the scope of the geothermal energy policy statement, one of the main areas is regulation, and there's no regulation in this area whatsoever. We don't have anything to guide either the industry or people looking to implement geothermal as part of their own energy source. So we really need to be able to provide this guidance so people know where to go with it. So regulating the exploration for and the capture or harnessing of geothermal energy as a natural resource is a priority. Engaging with the public and providing information resources. I mean, already GSNI and Northern Irish Government have done an excellent job of raising awareness, and we're well behind that curve. So we are starting down that road at the moment. And then gathering data and bridging gaps in knowledge. So again, reflecting what Sharon was saying earlier, we're really very low on the ground in terms of information. We need to get data out of the ground, we need to get temperatures, and we need to be able to model and therefore guide people about where to put systems and what types of systems to put where. So in terms of focus on regulation, the draft policy statement will propose an approach for the regulatory framework that will give certainty regarding ownership and use of geothermal energy. And again, this is something that other countries who are using geothermal energy already have in place. And we've come up with this problem previously when we've had commercial enterprises coming up and saying, you know, can we start using geothermal energy? Can we start exploration for geothermal energy? And there hasn't been any guidance in place for them to be able to do this. So they've taken their investments elsewhere. We need to create a process for licensing the exploration and for harnessing the geothermal energy resources, as with the ownership and sort of guidance there. And also creating a system of reporting on geothermal projects, because this again is building information that we need to guide us. And also then, of course, as Sharon was mentioning, to integrate the existing environmental, health and safety and planning regulatory frameworks, getting the geothermal into those frameworks and making sure they're all comprehensive when looked at together. So in terms of PEACEPLUS, apologies for this very busy slide, but as Sharon was saying, you'll get a copy of these. On the left-hand side, we have the actions to be supported by this investment area. And you can see that they range from demonstration projects to build awareness, citizen science and initiatives like that to also to raise awareness and to bring the message forward, as well as the actual kind of initiatives for shallow and deep geothermal projects and using ground source heat pumps to help to grow those sectors. So there's a full range of actions there that are necessary, and this is a really excellent opportunity. And then on the right-hand side, I've just copied out some of the targets, some of the actions that I've mentioned in the first part of the presentation that will be met by these actions. So you can see there it's really about gathering the information, demonstrating the projects, bringing the positive messages for geothermal to people who do not have the information, including people in government, and then also to gather data. That's incredibly important. So this investment area could lead to a whole range of data that we don't have. It would be very important to gather that. And ultimately, to reduce emissions in the built environment. And along the way, of course, there's dealing with energy poverty, which is an ever-increasing problem, especially now economically speaking. So we're really pleased to see this project come online, and we feel that the actions will hopefully answer a lot of problems. In terms of the north-south opportunities there, we already engage with our Northern Irish colleagues quite a lot, and it's good to see that we're kind of stepping in time with some of their thoughts. But I think, as you saw from the map of Northern Ireland, there is opportunities in terms of geothermal resources, both north and south of the border. There isn't the policy frameworks in place, there isn't the regulatory frameworks in place. So we need to develop these together, because it is one sort of geological resource that we can tap into. And even though there's differences in the geological resource across the country, you can see that we will be able to work together to move forward in order to develop those. So just really to summarise, the PEACEPLUS Investment Area 5.5 presents a unique opportunity to provide these demonstration projects that will increase awareness of geothermal energy. And again, getting that first message out there that's a positive message is really important. To gather the much-needed subsurface data and results to improve our knowledge and understanding and help our modelling and predictive capabilities, and accurately communicate the installation processes, including the learnings from these demonstration projects and the benefits to the public and stakeholders. This really will be the first opportunity to monitor and learn from an end-to-end project. So the process of the technical mapping, the understanding of that, moving through the installation of these projects, and then finally to monitor and see how this impacts different communities, different buildings, whatever it may be at different scales. And also, to help grow the market and increase uptake, because that has definitely been hampered by our lack of regulation, our lack of policy, and we need to move that forward. There are people out there who want to, increase the sector, and then also to demonstrate how geothermal energy can be used to address fuel poverty, which, as I mentioned, is an increasing problem all the time. To increase the proportion of renewables used for heat, it's pretty abysmal at the moment. And also then to reduce the emissions in the inbuilt environment, which of course is what we're all here to do in this policy area. So that's just the presentation there, and you can get a copy of those slides.
Thanks very much, Monica. Again, I think it's a very comprehensive overview of the position of the department and indeed the Irish government, and a lot of good information in there as well, and areas that you will need to focus on and look at. I think it also shows just the strong policy alignment on both sides of the border around that, and the need as well, when we talk about the cost of living crisis, or the need obviously around low carbon as well, and some of the targets that we have. So I think it's very useful presentations, and as I said, we'll make those available afterwards. Just before Eimear, I ask Eimear to come up to provide you with an overview of the investment area and also some of the support that we can provide. Please, if you're thinking of any questions, if you can store them up just towards the end, and we'll make sure there's enough time after Eimear's finished to take some questions from the floor. So please make some notes as we're going through, and we'll take some of those questions at the end. So Eimear, I'd like to invite Eimear Bush up, who's working for SEUPB at the minute to provide this support in a number of investment areas. So over to Eimear, and Eimear will give you an overview. Thanks very much.
I made the mistake of speaking earlier without my glasses close by, and I couldn't read the slides. Welcome, everybody. Very pleased to be here. I'm pleased to see such a large number for this investment area. I thought there would be quite a lot fewer, so this is good that there's this level of interest. I am not a technical expert on geothermal. I am an expert on PEACEPLUS. You are technical experts in geothermal, and hopefully you know less than I do about PEACEPLUS, so that I can help you on this journey and guide you through whether or not you want to apply to this area of the programme. Thank you very much for the two accountable departments, to Sharon and Monica, who've really set the ground for what this theme is all about. There may be some repetition in what I say. If there is, you can be sure that it's important, and that's why I'm saying it again. So forgive us if we repeat messages, but be sure that if we're doing so, there's a good reason. So I have been providing support under priority investment area 1, 2, 4, and this one, area 5. Some of it's very traditional peace area, and this less so, but incredibly exciting. And what I want to be able to bring to you is how you can match this against the criteria of the PEACEPLUS programme. Programs like this that traditionally would have been interreg, that you wouldn't have said, well, what's this got to do with peace? But actually, peace and prosperity, there's a reason that we talk about peace and prosperity. So infrastructural programs, geothermal energy in this instance, is very relevant. The specific objective here, to promote energy efficient measures and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, crystal clear, that will result in an increased awareness and uptake of geothermal technologies for heat production across the programme area. A quick note, and Declan's touched on this, about the programme area. And let me just read the wording that you will see reproduced on the website and in different documents. So everyone's clear what the programme area is. It is Northern Ireland and the 6 border counties of Ireland. However, so that's the core programme area. We are flexible. The programme, however, has flexible geography beyond its administrative borders, and we call this the functional area. So if you hear people talking about the functional area, that's outside of the core programme area. Participation from the functional area is when you allow organisations and institutions not based in the core area to get involved in projects by linking with partners in the core area. Ultimately, the benefits of such collaborations must be significant for the core area. I'm highlighting this at the start for this priority area because it's clear to me that the nature of this particular investment area may well and is very likely to have participation outside the core area, as organisations and institutions might be leading the way outside of Northern Ireland and the border region. However, we really want benefit, focus, impact, peace and prosperity for Northern Ireland and the border region, the core area. So just to focus on that. And then a little bit about the peace and prosperity impacts. Increased use of the renewable energy source will result, I'm stating the obvious here, but will result in many environmental, first and foremost, but social and economic benefits for the programme area. And social and economic benefits are key to peace building. So, I just want to reinforce this message up front. You will be applying, should you decide to the PEACEPLUS programme. And whilst your actions, your results, and your outputs and results are all to do with geothermal, always I want you to have the idea, how is this building on peace and prosperity for the eligible region, for the core region? So, what does the geothermal energy demonstration project seeks to achieve? To build the knowledge, skills and capacity required to develop a policy framework and encourage programme area investment in the geothermal energy sector. And Monica used a lovely phrase, which was an end-to-end project. So there's 20 million here for one project, and it's an end-to-end project that will expand the fledgling geothermal sector and demonstrate its viability. And it was very interesting for me to hear that it's not regulated, it's new, but, and whilst those messages were coming through, that sounded quite exciting in the environment of having to meet targets, stretch yourselves, find new sources of heat for the eligible area. It's an exciting area to be involved in. We're after, hopefully, one partnership that can deliver on this investment area. One suitable cross-border partnership with the capacity to deliver on all of the outputs, results and actions, and I'll describe shortly what those are. So one organisation to deliver, one partnership to deliver on all of those, and that will be a partnership of a number of suitable organisations. That partnership should be able to develop solutions and have the capacity to influence, upscale and build awareness of the micro and macro benefits of geothermal. So we're very aware that there's a big ask in this investment area. The penultimate slide that Monica put up is a key one, and I will kind of disaggregate that slide and talk about it. But when you go back to accessing these slides, that's a good slide to hone in on in terms of this investment area. Both presentations obviously are in terms of the strategic policy. This partnership should be able to develop and implement the project within, that should say the programme's lifetime, but the project itself, we anticipate that you should be delivering that within around 4 years. Another very big ask for the number of actions that there are contained within this investment area. But in terms of putting together your concept note, which is the forerunner of your application, I would ask you to try to plot that out and see if you could deliver the actions within a 4-year period. Okay, so the scope and range, again, I'm repeating some of the key messages that were in earlier presentations, but it will include the testing procedures, new instruments, tools, experimentation, or the transfer of practices. And there will be slides shortly that will expand on these. Let me talk a little bit about measuring change, and I'm going back to putting this in the context of peace and reconciliation and PEACEPLUS. So firstly, your project must result in new policy actions, in jointly developed solutions, and in these solutions being taken up or upscaled by organisations. So meaningful, that will influence policy, that will make change, that can be rolled out, something that will really leave a lasting, tangible legacy. In addition, PEACEPLUS requires you to consider, integrate and demonstrate how this project contributes to a more peaceful and prosperous and stable society in Northern Ireland and the border counties of Ireland. Those of you who will have been involved in Interreg before, you'll be thinking, well, that's new to us. So one of my roles is to talk and guide you very much through this aspect of the PEACEPLUS programme. In terms of the indicators, output and result indicators, there's a huge amount of work and money, and eventually your project is boiled down into a couple of short bullet points, which always it looks quite alarming when you consider what sits behind this. But at the very end of the day, this is what your single 20 million euro project will be judged on. Your output indicator is that there will be two pilot actions must be developed jointly and implemented, and that 2 jointly developed solutions will be produced as a result. Sorry, that's still an output indicator. That will be 2 jointly developed solutions is your second output indicator. The result indicator, which is at the very end of your project, what the project results in, is 2 solutions taken up or upscaled by organizations. So that's the fundamentals at the end of the funded project, what it must be able to stand over and say that it has delivered. How it delivers those is via indicative actions. And the next 3 slides that I'll talk through are a mirror image of the penultimate slide that Monica put up. Hers was really useful because, Monica, you, I think, matched your actions to what the actions would achieve. So if you could read this presentation in parallel with that slide as well. The next 3 slides have 3 actions per slide. So this investment area requires the funded project to deliver on all 9 of these actions. So when you're putting together your concept note, I will want to see how all 9 actions can be delivered. And then those 9 actions shall result in the output and result indicators that I've just showed you. I'm just going to merely talk through these. I'll just speak them out, and you're going to be the expert on how to do these. So the first 3 actions that must be delivered: demonstration projects which build awareness regarding the benefits of and support for increased uptake of geothermal technologies in the residential, industrial, and public sectors. And all of these link to the policy that has just been described to us from either side of the border. Initiatives which demonstrate the application of heat networks using shallow geothermal energy and ground source heat pumps, henceforth it will be GSHP systems, including those within the SME sector. Initiatives which demonstrate the application of deep geothermal energy, that is greater than 400 meters deep, particularly for decarbonising district heating systems. Next 3 actions. Initiatives designed to increase market penetration of ground source heat pumps. Initiatives which involve the design, build, and operation of geothermal surface infrastructure within the housing sector in the programme area. And that means core area, and you may make an argument to bring in the functional area. Talked about that up front, the core area versus the functional area. Initiatives which support the growing geothermal technology sectors in the programme area. And I won't repeat myself, but you know, when I say programme area, you can read in functional area to that, as long as you make a strong argument as to how it will help progress the programme area. And the last 3 indicative actions, which brings us to a total of 9 actions to be delivered. Initiatives which contribute to the development of a cross-border policy framework designed to promote and support cross-sectoral uptake of geothermal technologies across the programme area. And your partnership will probably, most likely, involve organisations that will lend that cross-sectoral uptake that will allow you to deliver on that. Geothermal-related energy efficient studies focused on areas most affected by fuel poverty, and programmes for citizens to raise awareness and understanding of the benefits of geothermal heating solutions. 20 million sounds like an awful lot of money, and then when you begin to look at the 9 actions, it's a lot to ask as well. So it's going to be an important, carefully put together, thought out partnership and project that will be able to deliver on all of these, and I'm really interested to see what comes forward. So my role now is to help animate the sector, see what's out there via concept notes. And there should be one on every table. And this concept note is available on SEUPB's website. It is a precursor to the application form. And it's an opportunity to get in advance of the formal call and begin talking to me, to SEUPB, about what it is what your interest in this particular area is, to explore and share ideas with potential partners, to tell us about your project and receive feedback, to receive advice on how the idea might be strengthened, to be told you're in the wrong space, this isn't the right place for you, to be told there might be another part of the PEACE programme, PEACEPLUS, that's more relevant. Declan talked about investment area 2, that some of you may be better or more suited to, or to be signposted elsewhere altogether. But essentially it's about creating higher quality applications for the time the call opens, and also not to waste applicant partnerships' time if really their project doesn't meet the criteria in the very first instance. At least what you've done then is spent time only in a concept note and not the huge amount of work that goes with a full application. So from today, any organisation interested in becoming a lead partner under Area 5.5 may complete and submit a concept note for comment, advice and further support. It covers some, but not all, of the questions that are in the application form. It will help you put in place the foundations of your project. I would imagine, though, that hopefully they're well in place at this stage, so that you're better prepared when the call opens. It's not a formal application. I was asked this morning how I evaluate, I think was the word was used, how I evaluate them. Now, it's not an evaluation role. I will not score the applications. It's not part of the formal process. It's merely to match against the criteria, to tell you where there are weaknesses and what needs to be strengthened. So I'm going to take you through each section of the concept note now, briefly, describing what it is I'm looking for in each section. But in advance of completing it, you're more than welcome to phone me, drop me an email, and have us organise a call, an online meeting, if that suits. The short version, what's sitting in front of you there, is 3 or 4 pages long. By the time you complete it, it's probably going to be 9 or 10. There are 5 main questions, and I've asked for you to complete them in 300, 400, or 500 words, in and around that. You may require more. You know, when I look at those 9 actions, for you to describe how you're going to meet all those 9 actions, you may burst that word count. I'm happy enough for you to do that. This is not a formal application form. Advice is available, as I said, pre and post completion. We've put a deadline date just to focus the mind of the 23rd of November. That's a whole 8 weeks away from today. If you're ready to send me one in advance of that, please do. So the question 1 is about your project. How does the proposal align with PEACEPLUS? I've talked about that. I've talked about this as badged PEACEPLUS now, but then how does it specifically align with the objectives of Area 5.5? In a way, I always think question 1 is the easy is the easy question. It's the one where you shine. It's what you know about. It's what you're doing. It's your project. What is the expected change your project will make to the current situation? The policy context that was presented to you before me will give you all of that. And in a way, that already has been set down on the basis of this being included in the cooperation programme, that we are addressing a problem for the eligible area. And how will it contribute to the peace and prosperity of the region? What are the main actions? Well, I've told you what the main actions are. There are 9. But how are you going to deliver on those main actions, and who will benefit from those main actions? How will you do them? What's the approach? Final bullet point. What is the approach you plan to take, and why is a cross-border or inter-regional approach necessary? Where are you delivering these particular actions? How are you delivering those particular actions? So question 1 is very much an opportunity for you to expand on each of those 9 actions, explain how you're doing them, and put the whole project in the context of PEACEPLUS, building peace and prosperity. Question 2 is about your outputs and results. Your project must deliver, as I've already said, in the 9 anticipated actions. So go back to slides and my presentation, 18 to 20. And during the course of your project, 2 pilot, these are your output indicators, 2 pilot actions must be jointly developed and implemented. The second output indicator, during the course of your project, 2 solutions must be jointly developed. And your result indicator is by the end of your project, that's what comes at the end, 2 solutions must be taken up or scaled up by organizations. Question 3 is about relevance and context. So need and demand, to a large extent, has been described in the cooperation programme. But tell us a little bit more about why you've selected your particular, perhaps, locations for your actions, your particular, how you're going to deliver in those particular actions, why you've chosen to do as you're proposing. What is the additionality and/or displacement? Well, it is such a fledgling sector that I would imagine pretty much anything that comes forward at this stage is going to be additional and will displace very little, because as we've heard in the previous presentations, there's so little, well, all of this is new, and it's great to see the PEACEPLUS programme funding and expansion of this sector. What is the cross-border and cross-community participation and impact? Now, there will be large infrastructural elements to this, but there's education, outreach, getting communities on board, letting people know the benefits of this, addressing fuel poverty. Those have all come up as part of the thematic area. So talk to us about the beneficiaries and the cross-border participation and impact. The beneficiaries who will benefit from the project outputs and results. And what contribution does this project you propose make to wider strategies and policies? And you've been gifted 2 great presentations to give you the context, north and south, already today. Question 4 around the proposed team, the partnership and the implementing arrangements. It's no small task implementing a PEACEPLUS project, not least one of a technical nature like this under Investment Area 5. Who's your staff? Who's doing what? You'll have technical staff, you'll have financial staff, administrative staff, you'll have staff monitoring, you'll have staff specific to reporting and the communications aspect for the European-funded project. And you'll know, those of you who have been involved before in EU-funded projects, that communications is very important to get the message out around the support that the region gets from Europe. Presumably, of course, there will be highly qualified, experienced technical experts involved in this particular project. What are the practical arrangements for implementation? Will the group get together on a regular basis? Is there a lot of back-to-back work? How do you learn? How do you communicate? How do you share with each other? And there'll be other practical arrangements around the less interesting things around claims and quarterly reports to SEUPB, but all of that has to be arranged within the partnership and the implementing arrangement. So tell us about the structure of the partnership, who's in it, why they're in it, and who's doing what. In terms of value for money, costs seem to rise. When I left the house this morning, they seem to have risen by the time I got to this venue, according to the news. And I'm aware that when you cost a project, that the costs are changing all the time, particularly when there are infrastructural elements of it involved. But is it appropriately costed? And we'll have technical experts to help us look at that area of it. There may be aspects of this, well, there are very likely to be aspects of this that go out to tender, and you must use competitive tender where appropriate. So will the inputs, in other words, the finance, the personnel, the staffing, achieve the required outputs and results and meet the overall objective of this investment area. What's your exit strategy? That was asked this morning in terms of a program-based project, this more capital infrastructural based. Obviously, it may be an easier question to answer, to talk about the exit strategy and the durability of the results, the next steps, where you go to. And how is the long-term impact of the project to be secured? And I think, in this sector, in the course of 4 years, many things will change. Hopefully, the sector will quickly develop, and that will be a different answer as the project progresses. I want to make a few comments about the lead partner role. As I said earlier, we anticipate funding one project that can meet all of the actions, all of the 9 actions, and that can deliver on the 2 output indicators and the 1 result indicator. So it's a significant role, whoever the lead partner is, to take that on. It's a coordinating role, one where they will be involved in coordinating the partnership to build, firstly, the concept note, and then if you decide to take that further, if you get good feedback, and if you decide, I can't tell you not to take it further, my role is advisory. If you decide to take that further, the lead partner will be responsible for coordinating the writing of the entire bid and submitting the online application. They'll assume responsibility for the smooth implementation of the entire project if and when awarded, and they will coordinate all partners and activities and make sure that those are delivered on schedule and on a timely basis. Financial management, a huge function of the lead partner. They ensure budget control. They ensure eligible and timely claims. They're the ones responsible for cash flow and fund allocation to partners, and they accept risk in the event of ineligibility and or failure to meet targets. The reporting is the lead partner will coordinate and keep all records, will oversee the monitoring and evaluation, and ensure timely progress. Communication, I've already mentioned. For those of you who might have been involved in PEACE or Interreg the last time around, communication was its own specific work package. It's now been mainstreamed across all of the work packages, if you're familiar with building a project that way. And that speaks to the importance of communication, that it cuts across everything. So the lead partner will be responsible for communication at 2 levels. One, in terms of the communication requirements of the EU, but also communications with its partners. With SEUPB, the lead partner is the main point of contact with SEUPB. And any other communications, for example, with any consultants or technical experts you may procure in the course of delivering the project. There may be training that SEUPB require you to come to, training perhaps around the database that we will be using, and that, again, all of those sort of invites will go to the lead partner, and you'll be responsible for making sure the relevant personnel attend that specific training. Policies and procedures, the lead partner, again, is responsible for making sure that the partnership, because we're all familiar now with having good governance and the best and correct policy procedures on an organisational basis. Now working in a partnership basis, they have to be ones that they have to be suitable across the partnership. In short, the lead partner accepts overall responsibility for ensuring implementation of the entire project, and it is a significant role. So I'm not anyway, rushing away today. There's time, there has been hopefully time over lunch in your sandwiches to speak to some people in the room, and there will be after we have our Q&A session. So you can take this time to exchange numbers, email addresses, have a chat, communicate in the coming weeks about building the partnership. Be clear on who's doing what. Build your project deliverables, your work packages, the framework for communications and for monitoring and evaluation as well. This is a significant ask, this particular investment area. We want one project to deliver on all of the actions. So, can you do it? Are you biting off more than you can chew, or are you up for the task of this? Can you really deliver on a project of this scale? Think about the finance. Can you manage the cash flows required? Remember that you are paid in arrears on the basis of claims for expenditure already incurred. Have clarity of purpose. This, obviously, geothermal energy demonstration project, but also PEACEPLUS. Make sure that you always have, in your mind, how is this infrastructural 5.5 project impacting on the peace and prosperity of the region. So the timescales, henceforth, I'm here to help you. I'm more than happy for you to drop me an email immediately, for us to take calls next week, to have chats in advance of you putting pen to paper and submitting this concept note. The deadline, as I've already said, for the concept note is 8 weeks from today. That's the 23rd of November. Lots of time. If you've got anything before then, please do send it to me. My aim is to give you feedback within 15 working days. 15 working days from the 23rd of November is quite close to Christmas. So if you could get it earlier than then, it would probably benefit us all. And so I will respond to whatever comes in, absolutely, but the extent, depth, nature of the support and the further support will depend on the quality of what comes in and the fit of it, the fit and quality of what's outlined in the concept note vis-a-vis the requirements of investment area 5.5. In due course, what we have available at the minute on the SEUPB website is a really useful program overview document. It's about 50, 60 pages long, and it goes into more depth in the overview that Declan gave you about the 22 investment areas of PEACEPLUS. It's a useful one and fairly easy to print out and have as a reference. In due course, to supplement that, you will need, and these are important documents, the finally approved cooperation programme, the programme rules, the guide for applicants, and the call for applications, which isn't yet available, to Area 5.5. However, a lot of what we've told you today, you will find rolled into the call for applications in Area 5.5. So I do hope and believe that a lot of what we've told you, well, it really will allow you to build a concept note and submit that. So thank you for listening. Thanks for your patience.